Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, or happy noon, I should say. Welcome to our first edition of Public Radio Tulsa's Live at Lunch. Now, for those of you who don't know exactly what this is that we're doing, every weekday at noon, we're just going to be streaming on various streaming platforms for just a few minutes to bring you the news of the day, really important stories from our region as well as the nation and the world. So thank you so much for joining us on the various streaming platforms of your choice. My name is Ben Abrams. I'm a news anchor and reporter here at KWGS, and we're going to just get started right away with some of the most important stories of the day, starting with a big one. Now, faith leaders and parents in Tulsa spoke out yesterday protesting a proposed taxpayer-funded religious charter school. Now, for those of you who don't know what this is the St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Virtual Charter School. This is a big deal in Oklahoma as well as the nation, as this is a case going before the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, an interfaith group stood behind a lectern at Tulsa's Fellowship Congregational Church yesterday, holding signs that said things like, "Public schools are not Sunday schools," and "No public funds for religious indoctrination," and said things like this.
We believe that our country's promise of the separation of church and state means that our public schools must remain free from religious indoctrination and open to all students.
That was Reverend Chris Moore, the lead pastor of the church. He's one of the religious leaders speaking out against the opening of the St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Virtual Charter School. It was originally blocked from becoming the country's first religious public charter school by the Oklahoma Supreme Court last year, but the U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments starting yesterday. Now, we're going to hear from Erica Wright, founder of the Oklahoma Rural Schools Coalition. She says that a ruling in favor of St. Isidore receiving public funds, essentially becoming the first religious charter school, would not be good for rural schools. Take a listen.
Religious public charter schools won't benefit rural communities. It's quite the opposite, actually. They'll harm them by siphoning off the precious state resources our rural schools desperately need to survive.
So U.S. Supreme Court justices heard oral arguments starting yesterday in this case, and we've done a lot of reporting on this as well as our partners at State Impact. One thing that I find very interesting about this is that 8 of the 9 Supreme Court justices will hear this case. Justice Amy Coney Barrett has recused herself due to pre-existing ties with St. Isidore. Now, it's not likely, but if in the case that the U.S. Supreme Court ends up in a tie 4-4 vote, then the decision would just go back to the ruling from the Oklahoma Supreme Court, which, as we said before, blocked St. Isidore of Seville from becoming the nation's first religiously funded charter school. You can read more about this story here. This is from our reporter Zach Boblet, as well as this wonderful article on NPR.org, also available on our website, publicradiotulsa.org, from Nina Totenberg, explaining more of the background of this story. So another story that we want to move on to that seems really important in Oklahoma is a bill that would allow Oklahoma teachers to use available sick days for maternity leave. That's been sent to Governor Kevin Stitt's desk. Now, according to reporting from the nonprofit newsroom Oklahoma Voice, House Bill 1601 would allow the state's educators to use up to 6 weeks of bank sick leave to extend their leave after having a child. It would not require approval from a school board or an employer. It would be mandated. And State Senator Mark Mann, the Senate author of the bill, said that the measure won't cost the state any money at all. He also said the bill is aimed at helping to recruit and retain teachers, which is something that Oklahoma and other states have severely struggled with. You can read this article at Oklahoma Voice right here. This is the article that I'm referencing if you want to find out more. Turning to some national news, a big story from today is that as of today, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs has ended a new mortgage rescue program that has so far helped about 20,000 veterans avoid foreclosure for their homes. Now, this leaves so many veterans with far worse options than most American homeowners if they run into trouble paying their home loans, and it comes at a time when nearly 90,000 VA loans are seriously past due, with over 30,000 of those already in the foreclosure process. You can read more about that story on npr.org as well as our website, publicradiotulsa.org, right here. And that does it for today's Live at Lunch. Again, this is just a few minutes each day of the week to let you know about some of the more important stories in our region as well as the nation and the world. We hope you've enjoyed this. Again, join us every weekday at noon this month on the various streaming platforms that you're joining us on. And find us at publicradiotulsa.org, website right here. And you can also subscribe to some of our newsletters at publicradiotulsa.org to stay informed about everything Public Radio Tulsa, everything KWGS and KWTU. Again, my name is Ben Abrams. Thank you very much for joining us again, and we hope you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.